On Production is brought to you by Wrapbook, the production industry's only on-demand payroll platform. With Wrapbook, you can pay your crew with a click and track all your costs in real time, all in one place. To find out more about how Wrapbook is transforming the way productions pay their crews, visit wrapbook.com.
Welcome back to On Production, the podcast presented by Wrapbook. I'm your host, Cameron Woodward. Today, I'm diving into the really fun filmmaking, gritty world of independent horror with a filmmaker who's built a career on really relentless craft, and that's Joe Begos. Joe is the founder of Channel 83 Films and the director behind a string of really, I think, genre-defining horror films, including Almost Human, The Mind's Eye, Bliss, VFW, and Christmas, Bloody Christmas. Known for his love of practical effects, in-camera techniques, and 16mm film, Joe's projects are really, really awesome. And he actually has a new film coming out as well under Eli Roth's new label, The Horror Section. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I love talking filmmaking.
Let's start with your background. What first led you to sort of choose this genre of filmmaking as your lane? What drew you to the hands-on approach of independent horror film production?
I think it was kind of just an organic thing. I knew I always wanted to be a filmmaker since I could remember. I wanted to be an actor when I was really young because I thought they just made everything up. And then, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old and I realized what a director did, that's what I wanted to do. And even from a young age, I loved horror when I was 5, 6 years old. My parents were really cool and let me, I was watching The Terminator and Tales from the Crypt and Basket Case and Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 6. So the sensationalism of that, and also it was so fun to be able to tell, when you're that young, your friends about stuff like that and show them, you start having sleepovers and you show them these movies and just the way that they react. And I loved seeing that. It's almost like a carnival act. You see how people react to the horror, and I liked the sensationalism of that. So as I started kind of getting a little bit older and into my teens and, trying to figure out how I was going to go down this path, I just loved obviously stuff like Evil Dead and Bad Taste, and, Robert Rodriguez was a big inspiration to me. And I knew that I was never going to go to film school because even when I was 14, I hated fucking school. And I was like, well, I'm never going to write a script that's going to cause a bidding war. I don't know anybody in Hollywood. The only way I can do this is if I literally make a movie for no money and show people what I can do, like Raimi did, like Peter Jackson did, like Rodriguez did. So me and my producing partner, who I went to high school with, and we moved out to LA together. We still work together. He produced Jimmy and Stiggs. He produced and edited all my movies. We just kept cranking out short films, and we moved to LA when we were about 20 and started interning for people for free. I worked for Stuart Gordon, who directed Reanimator and From Beyond and all these great classics, and came up in Chicago with David Mamet. So he had a really great kind of stage and experimental background from Chicago. And we just kept cranking on shorts out in LA. And when I was 23, one of our shorts got into a big festival in London. So we flew out there, wanted to attend, and we saw a bunch of features that were there that had distribution, not like giant features, but independent features that had distribution. And they weren't that great. And me and my producing partner were like, well, maybe this is the time that we go make our movie. Raimi did it when he was 19, so we're a little behind the curve, but Rodriguez was 23. And we got back from LA, literally from that festival, applied for a bunch of credit cards, and we got about $7,000 together and went and made our movie. And it got into Toronto, Midnight Madness, and we sold it for a few $100,000.
Yeah, so this was your film Almost Human, right? So walk me through how you pulled that off. I mean, you mentioned credit cards, but from a production standpoint, crew, schedule, gear, what were the essential moves you made?
We lived in LA at the time, but we went back and shot in Rhode Island, where I'm from, just because, we had, it looked like a Stephen King movie, and we knew that we had the resources of all the people who helped me making shorts when I was a teenager would come and help. We can load everybody up from LA to stay at our parents' house and friends' house and all that. And it just gave a different aesthetic to the LA thing. So because we had been making shorts ourselves, and we learned, I learned how to shoot. I DP'd the movie, I operated, I directed, wrote, produced, and Josh cut, sound design, starred in it. So all these things that we learned how to do in shorts, we brought to the feature. And it's how can we, like the Rodriguez way, it's what do you have available to you? So it's well, we've got this great New England town. We've got these houses that we can use. We've got these locations we know we can go back and use. One of my producing partners, who's also my longtime AC worked at our camera house. So it's like, what camera and gear can we get for free? We ended up getting like a Red One, which at the time was a pretty archaic version of the Red. Got some cheap lenses. I had to pull focus myself. We didn't have any monitoring situations. We were putting it on old ass hard drives. We were switching out interns. We were like going to local hairstyling schools and getting our hair and makeup team to switch up for free. My mom and dad were, switching off cooking meals. Josh's parents, just like that. And we came back with the movie in the can with like $30 left. And then me and Josh cut the movie, sound designed it, did all that stuff, and used the finished cut to raise the rest of the money. And then it was kind of just a calling card, and it got out there and it got me some representation, you know, saying I made this for 25 grand, and it did. It looked, regardless of what people think of the movie, it looked like a $500,000 movie. So that kind of got us representation, and we got a sales agent, and it just got into the right hands of Toronto. It was kind of like that thing where you jump off, the cliff and just hope it all works. And, it was a perfect acclamation of it.
That's amazing, Joe. So yeah, so it premiered at TIFF. What happened next? I think you moved on to your next film, The Mind's Eye. Is that right?
Yeah, IFC bought it right out of TIFF for a profit. So we paid off our credit cards and I had some money to live off of for a year or two. And weirdly, when I was on the festival circuit for Almost Human, I was in Europe on my birthday, my 25th birthday, and I was partying way too hard and I fell off a cliff. I shattered my back, split my hand up. And
Wow, Joe.
yeah, I didn't know that my back was broken because I can move my legs. So I was walking around with these crutches, taking fucking hard painkillers the whole time and partying, enjoying my European premiere. I got back to LA, tried to get painkillers at the doctor. They thought I looked like some, derelict drug addict. So they took x-rays and they're like, "Sir, your back's broken. That happened 8 days ago." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I know. I told you I'm in pain." So I refused surgery. They told me to stay in bed for 4 months in a back brace, and during those 4 months, I wrote Mind's Eye. Came out of my back brace being able to walk and being able to operate camera again, and, I just kinda put together money. We got a financier from VHS who put in the first chunk of the money in. I kinda just that was about a $350,000 movie, and I piecemealed the money, and, I've done this now in 4 of my movies. I don't recommend it, but I got just this happened to Almost Human and Mind's Eye. I got just enough money to get the movie in the can, because it's like, well, we raised 250. Why wait to raise the rest? It's gonna be easier to raise the rest of the money if we have a full cut of the movie. So we shot the movie, went back to Rhode Island, again, shot the movie, and then used the edit to raise money. And actually, we sent it to Toronto again without finishing funds, and they accepted the movie. And we were able to go to investors and be like, "Do you want to invest in a movie that's premiering at Toronto in 6 weeks?" So like, it was pretty nerve wracking because we weren't able to get it out of our post house to do the DI and stuff without paying them. So we wouldn't have been able to put it TIFF unless we raised the money. But we came in at the nick of time, and then that one sold to RLJ. So yeah, so Whirlwind, those first two movies.
Pretty intense, like, process. How long did that take from your back break all the way through to, like, finished piece at the festival?
2 years. I broke my back in October 2013, and then I started raising money in 2014. We went into pre-production the end of 2014, started shooting again in 2015, and then premiered at TIFF in September 2015.
Did you feel like that the production workflow to manage that sort of multi-role execution had improved from Almost Human? Like, did you have on a producer? Like, what was your production back end?
No, it was the same, though that's the thing I learned with Mind's Eye is, like, I went back and kinda did the same thing as Almost Human production-wise, but this time everybody got paid a nice wage. We shot longer, we shot for, like, 45 days. I had bigger stunts, bigger effects, and it was that movie that kinda made me realize, like, "Oh, this just feels like a lateral move filmmaking-wise," and, because I was in control of both those movies, I was able to learn from mistakes, and I stepped back and really thought about, like, what do I want to do in my next movie that's gonna elevate me as a filmmaker, elevate my abilities, make me push. Because yeah, I just felt like I was kind of just doing Almost Human, not again, but like it wasn't the step forward I wanted. So with Bliss, I really took a step back and I was like, all right, I know what I did with these first two movies. They were kind of very much like homages, like Almost Human was my John Carpenter-esque, Stephen King movie, and Mind's Eye, I was like, I'm gonna do a David Cronenberg movie, and I was in my early 20s when I did those, and I was like, I need to really do something. I need to, I've cultivated my personality. I know I could technically pull off a movie. Let me just put it all out there and do something that only I could make that's right for my brain. And how do I elevate the look and feel of the movie. And that's when I decided to shoot on film for the first time with Bliss. And I was like, let's shoot in LA. I'm hanging out in the art scene. I'm hanging out in the bar scene, the metal scene. I'm really having trouble, with this new script, which it's an allegory because like in Bliss, she's doing the big painting, and that was basically me writing the script. But it would be way cooler if it was a chick doing a giant painting than a dude in his apartment writing a script. So it all came from that. And then the interesting thing is I had less money for Bliss. I had about $230,000 versus Mind's Eye's 350. But I shot on film. We had a smaller crew. I had a crew of about 9 versus Mind's Eye's 20, and we just picked all these great spots in LA. And like I very meticulously figured out the light where the sun was, because all the daylight I wanted the sun Tony Scott style sticking in the lens. I really wanted to shoot LA for LA, like make it feel like a Clive Barker movie and make it a character, and shooting real clubs, real bands, real bars, just almost like an Abel Ferrara movie in LA, downtown LA. And I did it, and we pulled it all off for that amount on film. And a lot of the reviews after are like, finally, Begos is a real budget. And it's like, no, I actually had less. I just took a step back and looked at what I did and how to improve and what could I learn. That's the good thing about being in control too of everything and being my own producer. If like you're on another movie and a producer is dictating stuff that you don't like or making you do certain things, it's just going to piss you off. And if it doesn't work, you're just blaming the producer. You don't actually learn anything. Where like if I fuck up, I'm gonna be the first one to be like, well, okay, how do I rectify that? What did I do that led me to that? How do I fix it next time? And that's the great thing about independent film. All my movies have been like that. And I've made 6 movies now, and it's like I don't know if I could enter the world where I had to basically make a movie by committee. Blessing and a curse, because I'm confident in what I do, but what's the ceiling?
It's interesting though, Joe. Like, it's pretty impressive, like from that first film to sort of like get a foothold into the industry. Obviously, there's this interesting interaction between you as an artist and then like the money side of this. It seems like you've been able to actually like find access to capital. Can you describe like what that relationship is like? I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of tensions there as an artist, as a filmmaker, but on our podcast, we also talk with like film financiers. We talk with film commissions who are actually like helping to attract filmmakers, even if it's a small budget, to like help get their projects made. What's that relationship like for you as a director, as a producer, with figuring out the money side of this stuff?
It's been different on every movie. Like, I also do my own budgets because as a producer and the operator and all this stuff, I know where to put money and where we can take money away. Because there's a lot of things like just, if you get a regular line producer, they'll just kind of like, it's like McDonald's, they'll plug in numbers, and that's not, that works for sure some people, but like some movies are so specific that you can't really do that. And I've had line producers on a couple of my movies, but I always do the first budget just to be like, here's a blueprint of where we need to focus money on. And I've had different financiers for every movie, and I've had a pretty good relationship with all of them. 2 of my movies I pretty much self-financed, which was my first movie and my last movie, which is interesting. But Mind's Eye was like 14 different investors. Bliss was one investor. VFW was pre-sold. So we were basically in the black when we were shooting. And I had a producer on that who was a dickbag, but I had Final Cut. So there's like contentions there. That was the most like volatile situation.
Did that contentious relationship, if you're being honest with yourself, lead to a better outcome creatively, or you no?
No, I made the best what I could do with it, but there were just things like that they wouldn't let me do because I don't know, this alpha and like wouldn't, even though I was right, wouldn't like for instance, we had to shoot the movie in 18 days, and every single one of my movies is shot for 30 days or more. Besides Almost Human, like there was just, and like they wouldn't let me take certain things out of the budget, and there was just ways that they were forcing me to work because that's how they made movies before, and they were like we kind of met in the middle on some stuff, but that movie, I am very proud of that movie. Like there were things I wish I could do better, but it was what it was. That's VFW. I'm pretty proud of that movie. But because that movie came out the way it did, it was part of a slate, like a 6-movie slate with that distributor. And our movie, and they all cost the same amount of money. And our movie stood so far above the others, like on a level of like just not even what people thought of the movie, but like it looked bigger, it felt huge. And that led to on Christmas Bloody Christmas, that same distributor just circumventing the producer and giving me and my partner like a $2.5 million budget, and didn't ask for any other producers, let us run with the money and do our thing. We had Final Cut. So like it led to that because I think that those financiers realized why our movie looked like it did, and we didn't need that middleman. And then yeah, we were able to go make Crystal Bloody Christmas for 2.5 million, which is awesome. We took over a town in Northern California and blowing up, and we shot for 45 days on film. We staged blizzards, blew up ambulances, fucking set police stations on fire, built giant toy stores. Like, it was crazy. So
You had a good time.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting question on this one, Joe, is, for you, you've been the producer, you've been the director, but how do you build a team? What are you looking for where you can thrive under, like, let me rephrase the question as how do you build a team that can really thrive under your do-it-yourself production environment? Like, you have it sounds like a very tight grasp of where you want resources allocated. What qualities do you look for in a collaborator?
Well, I'm very loyal. Like I've had the same people that started on my first movie. There's definitely a handful that have come all the way, and then I've picked up more and more where like I have a really core group of people, which is why I was able to pull up Jimmy and Stiggs for so little because I have a really loyal crew. But like I just want somebody who's open to how I work. I know like I only know my movies and my sets, and I hear other people talking about when they're on sets and all that stuff. And I'm like, how do people make movies like that? Like I just like I'm in control. I have a very direct idea of what I want, specific, but I want everybody to be on the same page as me. And if you find the collaborators who are on the same page as you, then they offer things that elevate your material. Like, you know, here's what we're going to do. But people offer ideas that are in that zone. And like on Christmas Buddy Christmas, we had a crew of 25. And at one point I was like, well, guys, we got to redo this. So like at one point we're just blaring music and we're all just every single crew member's painting and hurrying up and fixing the toy store. A PA can give me an idea and I can say, no, I don't like that. But if they have a great idea, I'm going to take it. And then they feel like they're part of the crew. And like, it just feels like you're really part of a team where like, you can have these bigger movies where it's like, and it's like, somebody's like, well, they don't want to know anybody's names or shit talking everybody else. One guy, he gets mad at you if you push the button. This guy does this. It's like, no, we're gonna have 25 people. We're all making the movie. If you need to go do that, if I want your suggestion on this, if like, you know what I mean? So it's a very like almost like a community theater troupe or something like that. Not even community theater, but like a theater troupe where it's like you're all there to pass the ball to each other. I'm the leader, I'm the quarterback, but you know what? The better you guys do, the better I look, the better I do, the better you guys look. And I think that people just have fun on my movies because we make movies. We have the best job in the world. Nobody else should be stressing. I should be stressing, and I don't want to show that stress. But that's also why I give myself so many days to shoot because I want a small crew and I want more days to shoot so we can all be there on the floor figuring it out and having fun and not like, dart, 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 dart. It's like, I don't like the way that looks. You don't like the way it looks. Let's work it out. We've got time. And I think that everybody really enjoys that. And, I take care of my room.
Joe, let's talk about your new movie, Jimmy and Stiggs. This is, as I understand it, a 4-year production
Yeah.
built
I'm actually on
largely
post.
inside of your apartment.
You can see, I haven't repainted my walls yet.
Yeah, so this was done in what give us the story. What's the background on the production side of this one?
Yeah, so I did Bliss and VFW like back to back. They had releases right like Bliss came out at the tail end of 2019 and VFW right at the start of 2020. And they both were really well received. Got good releases. I was really proud of both movies. And I thought that I was gonna have the heat to like immediately go make another movie, but then the world shut down. And everybody was making not everybody, but there were a lot of people making stuff like on their phones or on their laptops or on Zoom or whatever, and they were getting distribution. And I was like, so I'm just a filmmaker by heart. So I don't care about budget. I don't care. I just got to go make a movie. And I was like getting so, I don't know, anxious, just not being able to work on anything, just sitting in my apartment. And I was like, well, I own all my 60 millimeter equipment. I got this cool apartment I live in. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but the apartment is basically like it was 80% there before we started shooting, and I just kind of did some stuff to it. But and all my good friends are my closest collaborators. So like, why don't we make a real deal movie in my apartment, and we'll have it done by the end of the summer? And it took 4 years to make because I decided to make it so fucking complicated. But also the thing is like a lot of people, you look at Sam Raimi, you look at Rodriguez, you look at Peter Jackson, Eraserhead, or with Lynch. It's like their first movies are like multi-year projects that they sometimes act in and sometimes don't. This was my fifth movie. I already had a career. So it was a weird thing where like I didn't want to, my filmography is so precious to me. And also every movie I make is so precious to me where I didn't want to just shit a movie out and be like, I had to make a movie because COVID. Then you look back and it's like, oh, that's the movie that Joe just made. It's like, no, I wanted it to be a movie that felt like an organic part of my filmography. So like now I have the thing of like, I'm in this small room. How do I make a propulsive, big, cinematic, crazy, sensationalized movie with these parameters? And I learned a lot as a director, like how I was talking about with Mind's Eye. Like I learned a lot as a director because I had to work within those really tight parameters to do it. And I'm acting, which I've never done before. And it made me such a better director because I would look at footage of myself, like when we were first starting, and I'm like, okay, that's terrible. What do I have to do? What kind of direction do I have to give myself to get a better performance? And I was able to actually build that out. And also another reason the movie took 4 years is because I got the financing for Christmas Bloody Christmas about a year and a half in. So I had to take a year and a half off because, it's a real movie with a company behind it. But when I went to go make Christmas Bloody Christmas, the things I learned from directing myself, I brought to directing the two leads of that movie. And like, it's by far the most naturalistic performances in my films because I learned how to direct actors better by directing myself. And being the production designer on Jimmy and Stiggs, I was also able to like really look at the intricacies of production design and filling frames. Like I knew how to do that stuff before to a degree, but actually doing it myself and having to go and hand paint everything and reset everything, it allowed me to direct my production designer on Christmas Bloody Christmas a lot better, which I think the production design on that is, top notch because he was a great production designer, but I had such a better grasp on specific direction, if that makes sense.
It does. So on this film, you're partnering with the horror section, which is an Eli Roth, setup, and this is going to be oriented towards a theatrical release. From your perspective, what are the implications of preparing a film like Jimmy and Stiggs for, a theatrical rollout after such an independent process in your career?
Well, it's been interesting because I finished the movie and we were on the festival circuit and I just wasn't getting the offers I wanted and I self-financed a lot of it. So it's like, well, no, I don't want $25,000 for a 20-year fucking, license to just dump on VOD. I can put it on VOD myself. I could do a roadshow on 35. I could partner with a home video company that I know. So we were starting to sell foreign rights and I was like, just kind of like, all right, I guess I'm gonna have to raise money to start my own company to just fucking, cause I also got the rights back to my first couple movies already. Mine's I'm Almost Human. So I was like, well, maybe it's time to start a small distribution company and raise some money to do that. And I can tour Jimmy and Stiggs and put it out myself and just sell overseas and re-release my first couple movies. And I was literally in the process of figuring that out when a mutual friend, Ty West, who did like X, Pearl, Maxine, stuff like that, asked me what was going on with it. I sent him a sales trailer. He was like, has Eli seen this? And I'm like, I don't know Eli well enough to have sent it to him. Um, and then like 10 minutes later, Eli's like, can you send me the movie? And then the next day is like, I'm launching a distribution company. My next movie was going to be first, but I want to launch it with this. I want to go out in 1,500 screens, theatrical exclusive in 4 months. What do you think? And I'm like, Paul, I mean, that sounds fucking awesome. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind since then. And I mean, there's been nothing like special I've had to do to prepare. They just had, I've been on a press tour, like I was telling you before we started rolling. I've barely been home in the past couple months. But like the people there are very much in tune with what the movie is. So like the marketing campaign is all geared towards, very specifically like the movie. So it's kind of just been like an extension of the movie. And we're shooting, Eli's like, does your
Is that different, Joe? Like the selling part of it, the marketing side of it? I mean, you've always done this for your work. You've always like gone to work for your films to get them seen. But like, is that process been a learning experience for you?
It's been bigger this time, like, just because they have money behind it and, like, seeing the stuff that people react to. It's also cool going out there and going to every city and seeing the people and what they react to and, going on the convention. So it's been a learning experience in a way that it's been a wider berth than what I'm used to, but it's just it's weird because, like, VFW it's so funny with this you don't know, like, this is why I tell that I have so many friends who, like, are directors and they make a movie for like $1 million, say, and then they're very hell bent on their next movie being bigger. And they'll wait around sometimes for 3 or 4 years to get a $3 million budget. It's like, dude, are you a filmmaker? Like, what's going on? Are you independently wealthy? Like, I don't understand. Like, I'll take if somebody offers me 300 grand, like, can you make a movie in 2 months? I'll probably do it. That's why my budgets jump around so much. But like Bliss was 230 grand and it made such a huge impact on my career. And then like VFW, we spent so much time. Like I had a big producer who did all these bigger movies, and we spent so much time getting like Stephen Lang, who's in the biggest movie of all time as the fucking villain, and Avatar, and Don't Breathe. We got William Sadler, Martin Kove was on like the #1 Netflix show. And then the movie just goes to VOD and gets a few theaters. And then with Christmas Buddy Christmas, it's like, we got all this money. Let's make these giant action scenes, these big theatrical action scenes. Let's get all this money behind it. We've got a big corporation behind it with billions of dollars. And it just kind of comes out a couple hundred theaters and on VOD. And then it's like, I'm going to make a movie in my apartment starring me for 100 grand. And it's like, that's the one that goes wide like a Marvel movie. So, you just never, and because it's self-financed for the most part. I had friends come in and help me as we got across the finish line, of course, but like it might end up being the movie that I make the most money on. And like also like, if you can, even if the movie only makes a couple $1 million at the box office, and if it only makes $1 million at the box office, it's like, well, my last movie made 10 times its budget at the box office alone, which is just like a buzzworthy enough thing to get more money to do something. So yeah, it's the thing I've learned too through my career is to budgets. As long as you can make enough to pay your rent through the process of it, like I'm going to go do it, because in the end, nobody cares what the budget is. It's what's on the screen.
Is it a good movie or not? Right. I'm curious, Joe, like for other filmmakers working outside the system and then finding themselves in the system and then out of the system again, what's your advice on structuring a production in a way that protects creative vision while still being realistic and sustainable? I think you were touching on it a little bit here, but I guess what lessons have you learned?
Well, on everything besides VFW, I raised the money. So like there's not a lot of movement, like leeway, like, cause it's like I get Final Cut, me and Josh are going to produce. And yeah, it just comes from that. Like if you're, I see other people too who they're like, I got 3 producers attached, but no money. It's like, well, what the are they doing? You know what I mean? So I think when you get yourself in a situation like that, you're already kind of digging yourself out of a hole. But I just go out there and try to raise the money myself. And because at this point, I did those first couple movies that I produced myself and they got a release. That's enough to show other people like I can produce this movie. Like you don't need to bring on other production companies to kind of help. And then even like with VFW, like that was my 4th movie. And I was like, look, I know you guys are the producers, but I get Final Cut. And I got it.
In your movies to come, are you going to be starring in them? No. This is a special one-off.
Yeah, I'll give myself a small role, but definitely not starring. And it's funny though, because my buddy Josh Trank, who did like Chronicle and the ill-fated Michael B. Jordan Fantastic Four, he was like, your movies look so good for the budget. I'm doing a horror movie, like a $5 or $6 million horror movie. I want your department heads. And I'm like, oh, of course, dude. I was like, but also check out Jimmy and Stiggs. Like they all worked on this too. So we watched it and he's like, dude, you're a good actor. You want to be in my new movie? And then I just like acted in this movie with like Victoria Justice and Tim Heidecker and fucking Will Fisher. So, I'll act in other people's movies, especially like I'm sitting there in a trailer and I'm like, damn, this is pretty chill. Actors fucking easy. But look, I like operating cameras so much and like being there on the floor. This was just because of the nature of the movie. Though I will always give myself a small role in my movies, because the reason I decided like with Christmas, I'll give myself a small role, is I put all my friends in my movies. And then like a year after they come out, they're all getting residual checks from SAG and I'm getting jack shit. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to put myself in my movies. I guess, that might only be $200 residual check, but that's $200 that I'm not getting. And I made the fucking movie.
That's beer money.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Joe, this has been such an awesome conversation. Congratulations on the film and its release coming up here. Really inspiring. And I know so many of our listeners definitely can take some advice out of some of this stuff, or just, know that there's a fellow traveler making it happen. Thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
On Production is brought to you by Rapbook. With automated time card calculations, real-time production accounting, and payroll you can run with just a click, Rapbook makes it easier than ever to manage your entire production from one login. To learn more about how Rapbook is transforming payroll and production accounting, check out our website at rapbook.com.